The throne room of the Valerian matriarchy stretched before James like a cathedral of living crystal, each pillar pulsing with bioluminescent light that shifted from azure to violet. He stood alone on the polished obsidian floor, his worn combat boots and simple diplomatic uniform, a stark contrast to the ethereal grandeur surrounding him. Queen mothers didn't grant private audiences to human envoys. They certainly didn't summon them at midnight. When the twin moons cast their pale light through the crystalline dome above, James had served 3 years aboard the Endeavour, humanity's first deep space diplomatic vessel. He'd negotiated trade agreements, diffused territorial disputes, and once talked down a Krillian warchief from glassing a colony. But nothing had prepared him for this moment. The Queen herself materialized from the shadows at the far end of the hall. Tall and regal, her skin shimmered with patterns that flowed like oil on water, the mark of Valerian royalty. 4 eyes arranged vertically along her face, fixed upon him with an intensity that made his spine straighten involuntarily. Captain James Walker. Her voice resonated through the chamber, not harsh but impossibly deep, as if the room itself spoke. You have spent considerable time with my daughter, Princess Aliana. It wasn't a question, but James nodded anyway. Yes, Your Majesty. She's been instrumental in the cultural exchange program. Her insights into Valerian philosophy have... Do you desire her? The question hit him like a physical blow. James's carefully prepared diplomatic responses evaporated. In the corner of his vision, he noticed movement. Royal guards, their chromatic armor blending with the walls, hands resting on weapons that could atomize him before his neurons finished firing. The Queen took a step forward. I have read your biosignatures when you are near her. Elevated heart rate, increased neural activity in your primitive limbic system, pheromonal releases that even your species cannot consciously control. Another step. Your biology betrays you, human. So I ask again, do you desire my daughter? James felt heat rising to his face, but he forced himself to meet her gaze. All 4 eyes. 3 months ago, Aliana had boarded the Endeavour as a cultural liaison. 3 months of late-night conversations about philosophy and poetry, of her teaching him to read Valerian light script while he shared human literature. 3 months of carefully maintained professional distance while his heart hammered every time she entered a room. Permission to speak freely, Your Majesty? The Queen's head tilted. A gesture he'd learned indicated curiosity. Granted. Yes, James said simply. I do. Silence filled the throne room. The bioluminescent pillars seemed to dim. But, James continued, his voice steady despite the fear coiling in his gut. Desire isn't the question you're really asking, is it? The Queen's pattern shifted. A ripple of gold through the violet. Surprise, anger. He couldn't tell. James pressed forward. You want to know if I see her as a conquest, as something exotic to acquire, as a status symbol, the human who bedded a Valerian princess. He took a breath. The answer to those questions is no. Then what do you see, Captain Walker, when you look at my daughter? I see someone who cries at poetry, James said, the words flowing now unstoppable. Not Valerian poetry or human poetry, just poetry. Beautiful words that move the soul, regardless of the species that wrote them. I see someone who stayed up for 36 hours straight to help our medical officer find a cure for Talaxian fever, even though no Valerian was at risk. I see someone who laughs, really laughs, at terrible jokes, and who gets angry at injustice and who questions everything, including her own assumptions. The Queen had stopped moving, her patterns now cycling through colors James had never seen before. I see someone who's terrified of disappointing you, he continued, softer now. Someone who loves her people so fiercely that she'd sacrifice her own happiness to fulfill her duty. Someone who pretends the weight of her crown doesn't crush her sometimes, but I've seen her shoulders shake when she thinks no one's watching. James's voice cracked slightly. I see someone brilliant and kind and funny and brave. I see Aliana. Not a princess, not an alien, not a diplomatic opportunity. Just her. And yes, Your Majesty, I desire her. I desire to see her smile. I desire to support her dreams. I desire to stand beside her, not in front of her or behind her, but beside her as an equal partner if she'll have me. He straightened, meeting the Queen's gaze directly. But I would never ask her to choose between me and her duty, between me and her people. If loving her means letting her go, then that's what I'll do. Because what I desire most is her happiness, even if I'm not part of it. The throne room was utterly still, James could hear his own heartbeat thundering in his ears. He'd just committed either the most beautiful act of his career or the most catastrophic diplomatic blunder in human history, possibly both. Then he saw it, a thin line of crystalline liquid trailing down the Queen's face from her lowest eye. Valyrians didn't cry. It was biologically impossible. Their species had no tear ducts, no lacrimal response to emotion, except they did, James realized. He just didn't understand what he was seeing. The Queen's patterns shifted to pure gold, and her voice, when she spoke, was barely a whisper. 37 suitors have come before me in Aliana's lifetime. Princes, warriors, scholars from a dozen worlds. Every one of them listed her titles, her status, her potential to advance their position. She moved closer, and James resisted the urge to step back. You are the first to speak of her poetry, her laughter, her tears. The Queen raised one elegant hand, and the guards melted back into the shadows. You are the first, she continued, her voice thick with emotion James could now recognize, to see my daughter as I see her, not as a symbol or a prize, but as a person, as herself. The crystalline tears flowed freely now, catching the moonlight. Captain Walker, Valyrian's bond for life. Our partnerships are not casual affairs, but eternal commitments. I did not summon you to test your desire. She placed her hand over his heart, her touch warm despite her alien physiology. I summoned you to test your soul, and you have answered with the truth I desperately needed to hear, that somewhere in this vast, often cruel universe, there exists someone who loves my daughter not for what she is, but for who she is. James felt his own eyes burning. Your Majesty, she waits in the garden, the Queen interrupted, a smile breaking across her face. She has been waiting every night this week, hoping I would approve. Go to her, James Walker, and know that you have this Queen Mother's blessing. As James turned to leave, practically running toward the garden entrance, the Queen called after him, Captain? He paused, looking back. If you ever hurt her, no power in this galaxy will save you from a mother's wrath. Human resilience be damned, James grinned despite the very real threat. Understood, Your Majesty. He found Aliana in the moonlit garden, her patterns shifting nervously through shades of blue. When she saw him, her whole body brightened to gold. She said yes? Aliana's voice trembled with hope. She said yes, James confirmed. As they embraced beneath the alien stars, two species became a little less foreign to each other. And in the throne room behind them, a Queen Mother wept tears of joy for her daughter's happiness, the most human thing she'd ever done.